This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything in the wide world of sports. My name is Ben.
I'm Alex.
We're back here on a Monday, although most of you, it's the start of your work week. We have a lot to talk about, which will sort of give you the added boost. You may not be happy about going back to work, you know what I mean? But after listening to the show today, it might give you just a little bit more motivation to go to work.
Yeah, it might help you out. It might help you out on your drive to work.
Maybe if you're listening,
man, I'm in a chipper mood now.
Maybe if you're listening at work, get you through the day a little quicker, a little faster, get you some sports information, some topics, some discussion, some takes.
Yeah, they call it that Monday mood, Ben.
If you might be having a case of the Mondays,
boo.
Maybe you won't be after listening to the show, because we have a great show. I feel like we had really one of our best sports weekends in a while. I feel like this was probably the best week in the NFL we've seen all year. A lot of great games, a lot of great storylines. College football is crazy. Number 2, number 3, and number 4 all lose.
Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 8, number 10, number 14. All.
Boom.
Boom.
Just all lose.
Bang.
So, really the week of the upset in college football, but especially at the top part of those rankings. So we'll have to talk about that in a segment. Talking NFL in a segment. We had UFC 205 over the weekend. Conor McGregor making some history. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. And then we'll just talk about some trending information. I have a funny story for you, Alex, that I'll talk about. I'll save it. I don't want to tease it. But I got to tell you, I think it's going to knock your pants off.
I can't wait to hear it.
Just wait for it, okay?
Okay, I'll wait.
All right, but anyways, let's get right into the show. We got to talk about what happened yesterday in the NFL. A lot of great games.
Yeah. We're going to start with our game recap, as always. We'll start with the first game listed on the day, and that is the Titans at home defeating the Green Bay Packers. I'm sorry, Ben. 47-25, Aaron Rodgers 371 and 2, but it was not enough to defeat a DeMarco Murray-led Titans team in which he had 123 yards on the ground on 17 carries for a touchdown, and he threw a touchdown in this game as well. So the Packers fall to 4-3, and the Titans moved to 5-5.
This was just an ugly game for Green Bay.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
from the get-go,
I really think there might need to be some wholesale changes in Green Bay now this year. I think you definitely need to look past Dom Capers at D coordinator, maybe even a head coaching change. I think there's a moment with every team where you kind of realize that the players maybe stop playing for you, kind of don't have any motivation. I don't really see any motivation with this Green Bay team right now. Tennessee is not a terrible team, but they're not anything spectacular. They're not a team that should be beating Green Bay 45-27. No. They're just unacceptable.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to address, and there's some more teams on this recap they'll talk about that people are saying the same thing about. We move to another game within that division, and the Vikings losing to the Redskins in a close one, 26-20. Sam Bradford, 307 yards and 2 scores, but not enough to down the home team Redskins, who moved to 5-3-1 on the year, and the Vikings fall to 5-4 after 4 straight losses after their 5-0 start to the year. We have the Buccaneers defeating the Bears, big 36-10 behind Jameis Winston's 312 yards and 2 scores. Jordan Howard, the leading rusher there on the day for both teams with 100 yards even. The Chiefs defeat the Panthers and move to 7-2. Panthers dropped to 3-6, and I'm sorry, I meant to mention the Buccaneers now 4-5. The Bears down to 2-7. So the Chiefs win over the Panthers there in Carolina, 20-17. Spencer Ware comes back from injury. He adds 16 yards on the ground. 61 yards on the ground on 13 carries on 61.
Yeah, the Panthers blew a 17-point lead in this game. A game they really let get away. Now that 3-6, I mean, definitely tough to overcome.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, they've just had a really off year. We look at the Eagles, who I believe won one of their first games after their hot start this season. They beat the strong Falcons team, who now moves to 6-4 on the year. The Eagles move to 5-4. Matt Ryan, 267 yards and 1 score. Ryan Matthews had a pretty strong game, 19 carries for 109 yards and 2 scores.
Yeah, I think the Eagles finally found the recipe to defeat the Falcons. It was 24-15, but Atlanta really 15 points, their lowest total of the year. They were averaging 34 going into the game, and the Eagles over 200 yards rushing on the ground, just really controlled the ball the whole entire way, kept that high-powered offense for Atlanta on the side of the field, and that's what won them the game. Carson Wentz didn't even have a touchdown.
Julio Jones, 135 yards despite the losing effort. You look at the Falcons, they scored 6 in the second, 3 in the third, and 6 in the fourth, so definitely want to be looking at more points for them. Looking at the next game was the biggest barn burner of the weekend between the Jets and the Rams, 9-6.
Yeah, this was not
baseball score.
This was not the Angels against the Mets. This was the Rams against the Jets, 9-6.
Yeah, that was rhymed. Yeah, Case Keenum, 165, no scores to speak of. Obviously, we have 3 field goals from them and 2 from the Jets, I do believe.
No, they had a touchdown. They just missed the extra point. Typical Jets.
Right.
So,
and it was the first start ever in the career of Baylor's former Bear Bryce Petty. Didn't have an amazing game. Didn't have a horrible game. He did have that touchdown, 163 yards. He had a kind of ugly pick. You had 139 yards on the ground as a team led by Matt Forte's 98. So some interesting things to look at in terms of what they did with Mr. Petty there starting. But we'll see if they move from there, if he starts next week as well. But the Rams moved to 4-5. The Jets fall to 3-7. We're the defending Super Bowl champions. After a rough skid at times, they are now sitting at 7-3 after defeating the Saints in a close game. They're in New Orleans, dropping the Saints to 4-5, 25-23 in favor of Denver.
The way Denver wins this game is absolutely crazy. They return a blocked extra point for a 2-point conversion to give them the 25-23 edge and win the game.
Yeah, the Saints were looking to actually go ahead here. 24-23, instead they lose 25-23. Now, that's a tough loss.
That's like literally the one way you would not expect to lose a game is that like, oh, wow, you guys lost by 2. Like, what happened there? Oh, they blocked their extra point and ran it back at the end of the game.
Now that's a rule, too. I like it.
Like, like if you had that one on the betting odds, you're pretty happy. But other than that,
you're also pretty psychic because, come on. We move to the next game of the day, Texans-Jaguars. The Texans defeat the Jaguars 24-21 to move to 6-3 on the year. Jaguars drop to 2-7, 24-21 in favor of Houston. This Jaguars team, man. Bortles, he can find ways to throw some ugly interceptions.
I could say a lot about Brock Osweiler as well. They win 24-21. He throws for 99 yards.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Are you kidding me?
Lamar Miller, leading rusher in the day on both teams, as a matter of fact, 83 yards for him. But, both quarterbacks not looking good. 99 yards total and 2 touchdowns, but that's on
99 yards.
14 completions. Nobody had more than 5 receptions for 48 yards, and that was DeAndre Hopkins leading the way. The next behind them, closest in terms of receptions and yards, was Fedorowicz with 3 for 26. Allen Robinson had a good day, 9 for 107 and a score. Allen Hurns, not so much. That duo is not as formidable this year as it has been in past years. We look at the running game for them. The Jaguars, 80 yards as a team. That's not great. Chris Ivory was meant to come in and be a big free agent acquisition at the running back position, and unfortunately, he has not been that. So they have a lot to look at. The 1 interception that Bortles threw, I don't know if they ended up overturning it because I swear he had 2. If they counted the one I'm thinking of, it was a blown up screen, and he threw it at the player's foot, but he fired it, and it bounced off him, and somebody picked it off. He fired it from 5 feet away from him.
The Texans did have an interception return for a touchdown.
So then they counted that one, I'm assuming. So I guess maybe the other one bounced off the ground. But even then, if that guy just finds ways to throw.
There's definitely going to be changes in Jacksonville. I think really the head coach for sure, but maybe even the quarterback position now. Because
I don't
Bortles
think you should change the quarterback position because I think a lot of the problem was with coming into the year with the new offensive coordinator. Then they changed it and it's still kind of struggling. We've seen what he can do. I think the bad, the unfortunate side of all of that is you have this indifference with these bad teams that are routinely bad, and they have a bad go of it, and then they replace the whole format, their coaching staff and all that stuff, and then it's the same kind of team, and whether or not that works with the new coaching staff or not, then they have to start all over there, and I feel like that's the problem with the Browns, and it's a change of philosophy. And then all these players that are supposed to be brought in to be the new good players, they didn't win right away. And then in 2 years, you have a new coaching staff who maybe look at things differently, and then it's like a never-ending cycle. I feel like the Jaguars have to be careful with that because they have a good base young team. I think if they're going to fire the coach, they need to get somebody who understands the philosophy in which he's coming into, because you're going to throw away some good draft picks if you do that. I think Bortles has the potential to be a good quarterback. He looked good last year. I think he's just having an awful year.
But how much of last year was because they were down so much and he kind of padded his stats?
I think this year's a lot different than that. He clearly has garbage time stats. I'm not looking at his stats. I'm looking at how he played in games, not his stats. I'm looking at how he handled the games, and he was a lot better last year than this year.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't really believe much in him, but
fair.
You invested a lot in him, number 3 overall pick when he came out, so you got to be a little more patient than others. So, But anyways, the Miami Dolphins win yet again, improved to 5-4, now a 4-game winning streak. They defeat the San Diego Chargers 31-24. Phillip Rivers, kind of the GOAT of the weekend. The Chargers blow another fourth quarter lead, but you can put a lot of this on Rivers. Rivers has 4 interceptions in the fourth quarter alone. The last one, a 60-yard interception returned for a touchdown by Kiko Alonso to give the Dolphins the win. Not so good for Phillip Rivers in San Diego. They might be the best 4-6 team I've ever seen because they could honestly be 10-0. They're leading every fourth quarter, but then they just blow them all.
Yeah, I feel like I can almost make it like clockwork and kind of bet on them to blow a fourth quarter lead. I mean, it's the same thing like with the next game where I waited for it to happen.
Well, that next game you're talking about featured 7 lead changes.
I would allow me.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the Cowboys defeat the Steelers 35-30. Cowboys moved to 8-1, haven't lost since opening weekend. The out of bounds situation with Tramon Williams, where I said that they very well could be undefeated with the way they've been playing the rest of those games, and they were very close in that game. And just a mental break. The Steelers moved to 4-5, 5-game losing streak. They lose their home game winning streak of 8 straight games. One bright side for the Steelers: Roethlisberger threw for 408 yards and 3 scores. Antonio Brown 154 and 1 touchdown on 14 receptions, and they got their prized free agent tight end finally in a game this year. Ladarius Green, he did catch 2 passes, slowly working him into the lineup. So that's going to be something to look at. But again, it's the defense. They score with 40 seconds left. Roethlisberger with a fake spike a la Dan Marino to Antonio Brown for that touchdown. Yet they, first off, return the ball pretty well.
Get a face mask
penalty. They should have had 2. One wasn't called.
The Cole Beasley one, yes.
Yes. Get a face mask penalty, which already pretty much puts them in field goal range, in which they only needed, I think they could have tied it up or went ahead with a field goal.
It would have put them up by
1, right?
No, it would have put up by 2 because it was 30-29.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So either way, they were in a position to win the game. And this defense, again, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, looks great. Nothing taking anything away from him, but I was just sitting there waiting for it to happen.
And it happened. Zeke Elliott, with a few seconds left on the 32-yard line, scores untouched right up the middle. He scores with 9 seconds left to give the Cowboys a 35-30 edge, which is obviously the game winner. But, I mean, I think you're talking about the defense for the Steelers, but I think you have to give this Dallas offense credit.
I'm not taking anything away from them.
In particular, Dak Prescott, 42 seconds left. They have all timeouts. He leads them down the field. I realize they had some benefits with the face mask penalty. So he leads them all the way down the field. He hits Jason Witten a couple of times on that final drive. Just really, really poised under pressure. Dak throws for over 300 yards, 2 scores. Ezekiel Elliott, 209 yards from scrimmage and 3 total touchdowns. I mean, this Cowboys offense, everyone talks about Atlanta. I think this Cowboys offense is honestly the best in the league because their offensive line is so good. Dak Prescott never gets touched. Has really any time under pressure. He has all day to throw.
Excluding some early times in this game, he started the game with a strip sack fumble. Other than that, I mean, they got to him early in the game, but since I don't know if they did any kind of adjustments or what, they just stopped getting pressure on him.
And with Elliott, he's now over 1,000 yards rushing, 1,005. He's the first player to do that this season. He's over 1,300 yards from scrimmage with his receptions as well. So 10 total touchdowns. I think you maybe have to say he's putting himself in that MVP race, even as a rookie. I mean,
he is. Just with the way he's playing, he definitely is.
Because you look at some of the favorites, what happened this week? You have the Patriots lose. Brady doesn't throw a touchdown. It throws an interception. We'll get on that game a little later. That was a great game as well. You have Matt Ryan playing bad. You have Derek Carr on a bye week. You have Matthew Stafford on a bye week. Some of these favorites. And then you have Zeke go out there and play his best game as a pro in probably the best game of the season in the NFL. Like I said, 7 total lead changes.
Was probably, I mean, if you weren't a fan of either,
like a neutral fan, this was a fantastic
game. Yeah, unfortunately, I was not. So, unfortunately, but
you know what, dude?
There's always next week.
I still think the Steelers are the best team in the AFC North. Baltimore sits atop the division at 5-4, so you are a game back. You still have to play them again one time. So, and that game will be in Pittsburgh. So,
on Christmas.
I still think the Steelers are still a good team. I think last week was kind of a fluke. Roethlisberger didn't practice for a couple of weeks. This week, he was definitely not a shell of himself.
He was playing pretty well this week.
He was pretty good. Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown.
They both looked good.
I think they'll be fine.
Darius Green back. I think this is the issues with the defense. And I've seen a lot of talk, saying Tomlin is not the greatest coach. And I might be blinded by the fact that I'm a Steeler fan and I do like Tomlin. But people argue like, oh, he's a Super Bowl winner, and they say, well, he won that Super Bowl with a team built by Bill Cowher. And, oh yeah, well, he took him to another one. And they're like, okay, well, he lost that one. And there were still a lot of players built from the Cowher team. He has been said to routinely play down to opponents. He makes questionable trick play calls and things along those lines. So, along with the McCarthy thing, yeah, people are saying the same thing about the Steelers, and that's weird to hear because the Steelers have literally had 3 coaches since 1969, including Tomlin. So if you look at it that way,
I think they'll be okay. But for me,
I think so too.
I take more away from this game of Dallas than I do Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I do too, because I mean that's good offense, not a great defense, and literally we saw that they put up all those points, they score at the end of it, and they can't be held on because of the defense, and so. That's what it is.
Dallas, an 8-game winning streak where they score at least 24 points in every game. That's the first time in franchise history. Dallas Cowboys have been the model of the league since they came into the league in the 60s. So to do that, quite impressive for Dak and the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Moving on to the last afternoon game of the weekend, and that's the Cardinals defeating the Niners in a closer game than most people thought, but the outcome people thought would still be happening. The Cardinals defeat them 23-20, moving to 4-4 on the year. Now
one.
Thank you. And the 49ers are now 1-8.
Yeah, the Cardinals had to kick a game-winning field goal pretty much right at the end of the game. Their offense,
absolutely at the end of the game.
The offense kind of struggled. Carson Palmer puts up big numbers, 376, 1 touchdown, but also 2 interceptions. David Johnson struggled running the ball, only 55 yards on 19 carries, although he did get in the end zone on an 18-yard run. The Niners defense kind of keeps Arizona in check. They give up a lot of yards, but they keep them from getting out of the end zone. Right.
Yeah, that was something I saw a lot of teams do this year. Like the Steelers, the first few weeks they were absolutely bending but not breaking. So that was nice until now. But both teams, 80 yards rushing. Not an amazing offensive day. Kaepernick 210 and 1. He had 55 yards rushing on the ground and a touchdown. So pretty decent game for him. He is playing well, but you look at it and compared to are you winning games? He's not playing great. He's not, doing everything he can. So, Larry Fitzgerald, 133 yards for the veteran. Michael Floyd adds 101 on some pretty sick catches he had yesterday. And impressive there. Carson Palmer fumbled the ball. J.J. Nelson fumbled the ball. Jeremy Curley fumbled the ball. Man, it was turnover city yesterday. It was just not the prettiest game to watch. Like you said, 2 interceptions for the Niners. Eric Reed had 1. Gerald Hodges had the other. Other than that, I mean, there wasn't much fireworks in this game. Yeah, it came down to the kind of end. Everybody expected the Cardinals to win. They did. Maybe not from the score in which it happened, but maybe closer to the first time. But it is what it is.
Yeah, they improved to 4-4-1. They got to try and keep pace in the NFC, which, honestly, the NFC is kind of a crapshoot to me. I think Seattle and Dallas are the top 2 teams. But other than that, I mean, we talked about it before. I feel like you just pull names out of a hat as opposed to who's going to win. Like this NFC is super, super weak in my eyes. Dallas and Seattle really separating themselves in my opinion.
Well, speaking of Seattle, they had this Sunday night game and they faced arguably the best team in the AFC with the Patriots.
In the league, really.
Yeah, right. They came into the game at 7-1. It was a 5-2-1 record for the Seahawks. The Seahawks came out on top of this Super Bowl rematch, 31-24, moving to 6-2-1. and the Patriots dropping to 7-2. Russell Wilson had a strong day, 348 yards and 3 scores. LeGarrette Blount, 69 yards, but he added 3 touchdowns on the ground. Martellus Bennett, the tight end with the big numbers in this one, 102 on 7 receptions. That's
for me, the big storylines
in this game.
The big storylines in this game, a couple of them. Stop me if you heard this before. The game comes down to the wire where the team is on the goal line on the 1 yard line, and that team does not score. That's what happens. So Seattle scores with a couple of minutes left to go up by 7. They opt to go for 2, which kind of surprised me. If they go for 2, they win the game. If they don't get it, obviously it's a 7-point game still, so they're looking at overtime. The Patriots go all the way down the field. They have first and goal at the 2 yard line, but they can't get the ball into the end zone. 4th and goal. Brady tries to throw a goal line fade to Gronkowski. Questionable whether it was pass interference or not on Cam Chancellor. I really didn't think so. I think you're not going to call that unless it's blatant at the end of the game. I think, if anything, Gronk maybe pushed Chancellor and kind of flopped, which Gronk's such a big guy. For him to go down is going to be pretty tough. But for me, Russell Wilson, you mentioned 348 and 3. Those 3 touchdowns, all to Doug Baldwin, who added 59 yards. For me, it was C.J. Prosise, the running back. He has 17 carries for 66 yards, 7 receptions for 87 yards. Kind of a shifty guy. Reminds me a lot of like a bigger Darren Sproles, a shifty guy, a guy who can go out of the backfield, catch balls. A converted wide receiver from Notre Dame, so he obviously has the ability to be a receiving back. And he kind of, in my eyes, is replacing Christine Michael. He only had 5 carries for 22 yards on the night. Prosise really the leader of the Seattle offense last night with Wilson.
Yeah, he definitely had the running back position kind of figured out, at least for them. So, yeah, I mean, he played well. Like you said, he had over 100 yards from scrimmage. Russell Wilson played well. He's still not running the ball.
He's getting better, though. You can tell week by week he looks healthier.
He's getting mobile, at least around in the pocket, so that's nice. If you look at it that way. But, yeah, the Patriots, I mean, Tom Brady doesn't throw a touchdown for the first time in a game for him this year, as 1 interception. So not the best game for him. The Patriots have to regroup and move on from there.
And they'll be fine. I mean, they sit at 7-2. They're still tied for the best record in the AFC, along with Kansas City, and then you have Oakland half a game back. But so I think they'll be okay. But Seattle, a big road win, a game I did not expect they would win. You have New England at home off of a bye week. I thought that spelled recipe for disaster for Seattle. But, I mean, you might be looking at a Super Bowl preview with this game.
Very well could be looking at a rematch of this one.
You might, again, you never know.
And you mentioned the Raiders being a team earlier on without their quarterback playing this weekend. They were on a bye week. The Colts, the Lions, and the Bills, all on byes this week. The last game to speak of is a game between an AFC and an NFC team. It is tonight's Monday Night Football game. That's the Bengals taking on the Giants. The Bengals currently sitting at 3-4-1. The Giants at 5-3. So we head into this one. It is a home game for the Giants there at MetLife Stadium tonight. Leading, the leading guys in this game, pretty much you expect heading in. Obviously Andy Dalton, Eli Manning. You have Jeremy Hill as the main runner for the Bengals, even though him and Giovanni Bernard do split time. You have Jennings still kind of listed as a leading rusher there for the Giants, but it's not really been him lately. Obviously, and this is going to be a big matchup between 2 marquee receivers. You have A.J. Green and Odell Beckham Jr. Interesting game to look at in this one, I would say. You have your starting guard. Your left guard is out. Everybody else questionable from there. Victor Cruz, we'll see if he's going to play tonight. And then Mal Lugo has been with the Bengals forever, as it seems. He is currently out as well. So this will be an interesting game, Ben. What do you think?
Well, I think I'll maybe give the Giants a little bit of an edge because they are at home. The Bengals are coming off a bye week. That is a situation I do normally like. I like teams off bye weeks, giving them a little extra rest.
Depending on who they're playing, of course.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'll give the Giants a slight edge because they're at home. I think these teams are really even in comparison. I think the Bengals getting back Tyler Eifert's a huge addition. You saw what he did in that game over against London when they tied the Redskins, had a touchdown at about 80 yards that week. So I think that's a huge advantage, especially in the goal line because they need that presence in the goal line. They've struggled all year. So I think the difference comes down to what team can execute better in that red zone. So I think I'll maybe give the Giants a little bit of an edge. A big win last week against Philly. So I'll give them a little edge because they're at home, but it'll go either way. It's a good matchup. I think we've finally got a good matchup on Monday night, something we haven't had really all year.
Yeah, since about maybe the first couple weeks. Yeah, and then the Bengals will have the 4th-ranked passing attack going into this game as well. One thing to look at on this one, like you said, both teams pretty even in the way they play with the New York Giants at home. It's really going to, I think, come down to the defenses over these marquee receivers. I think the Bengals have better defense, but yeah, I don't know really know where to go with this one. I might have to go with you on the Giants. As it stands right now, ESPN has this one 53.9 to 45.8 in favor of the Giants, so we will have to see how that turns out. And, of course, tomorrow I will recap this game with the slate of college football, and we'll talk about tomorrow as well. But let's go ahead and take our first break, and we'll come back, and we will indeed talk this weekend's amount of college football in just a moment here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. It's time to talk college football. We're going to talk some scores because it was a big week in college football. We had Utah over Arizona State this weekend, 49-26 in favor of the Utes. They're moving to 8-2 for them on the year within the Pac-12. Arizona State drops to 5-5. North Carolina loses to Duke. Close one there. Beating the 17th ranked team for an unranked Duke team.
I talked about this on Friday because the game was Thursday night, but for the 8th week in a row, the team that's ranked 17th in the nation has lost.
Yeah, I know.
The 8th week in a row.
I know, including the playoff poll from last week.
That's what I'm saying. So with the playoff poll coming out next week, if I'm ranked 17th, I'm literally just like shaking in my boots because history will tell me I'm going to lose.
Very true. All right, so moving on to the Friday set of games because I know you guys didn't have a chance to mention that one. There's only one. Florida State defeating Boston College. A big surprise there, 45-7. Now, moving to the weekend games, we, of course, had Alabama defeating Mississippi State 51-3 to move to a total of 10-0. Obviously, a hold on that number one spot.
They clinched the SEC West, so they will be in the SEC championship game no matter what because Auburn loses to Georgia 10-7.
Yes, they did, and we'll mention that in a minute. We're going to jump 2, 3, and 4 real quick because I have some important stuff to come back to them. So we'll go to 5. Ohio State defeats Maryland 62-3, winning big there. Impressive win there for the Buckeyes.
They win 62-3 for the second week in a row. 62-3 over Nebraska last week.
Yeah, that's a big total to put up back-to-back weeks. Number 6 in the nation, Louisville wins 44-12 over Wake Forest. Deciding game. Not a typical Lamar Jackson game, actually kind of slow for him. But
yeah, it was not easy. They were trailing going into the fourth quarter, but they scored 34 in that fourth quarter and win big. So 44-12 was not really the whole story of the game.
Nah, not really if you look at it that way, yeah. 44-12 is a lot closer than that. We look at Wisconsin and Illinois. Wisconsin, number 17 in the nation. Number 7 team in the nation. It made it sound like 17. They win this one 48-3 big over Illinois. We dropped to 3-7 on the year. Ole Miss defeats Texas A&M, number 8 ranked team, 29-28 in favor of Ole Miss there.
This was a big result for me because Ole Miss doing it with Shea Patterson, their backup quarterback, replacing Chad Kelly, who's now out for really the rest of his college career. Yep. And they went at Kyle Field in Texas A&M, which is one of the toughest college atmospheres to play at. A&M now dropped 2 games in a row after they were initially ranked 4th in the first college football rankings. Now, 3 losses all in conference. They're done.
They're out of there. Even with the weekend we had this weekend. Auburn, like you said, lost to Georgia 13-7 in favor of the Bulldogs there, moving 5-4. Auburn drops to 7-3. Penn State wins big over Indiana 45-31. Oklahoma defeats Baylor 45-24. Colorado continues their strong play this year, defeating Arizona 49-24 to move to 8-2 on the year. And they were ranked 12th. I'm sure that will change. Oklahoma State, who was ranked 13th, had quite the battle with Texas Tech this weekend. The Red Raiders took them down to the wire, winning 45-44 over there in favor of the Cowboys. moving to 8-2 on the year.
Yeah,
for,
Texas Tech misses the game-tying extra point to lose the game.
But we are seeing that more and more than ever lately. Georgia Tech defeats number 14 ranked Virginia Tech in the Battle of the Techs, 30-20. That's a tough
I
loss.
like that one.
Thanks.
The Battle of the Techs.
That's a tough loss for a team that was ranked 14th going into the nation and playing well. You know, they really were playing well at times. They were really kind of looking. It was between them and some teams, you know, in the this year that were really fighting for that number one spot there in their division, and they got some moves to make now. Moving on, we have West Virginia defeating Texas. They were ranked before this game at 16. They win this one 24-20 in a closer game than people thought it would be, but they do advance and they move to 8-1 on the year. Texas drops to 5-5. Nebraska continues their winning ways. They were ranked 19th to start this one. They defeat Minnesota 24-17. Boise State continues a strong second half of their year, moving to 9-1 on the year, 52-16 over Hawaii. Impressive win for a team that has not been good for a while here. Washington State wins big over California, 56-21. The Cougars, for the first time in their career, are 7-0 within the Pac-12 and are 8-2 on the year. And to end the games off with the weekend slate, LSU 24 defeats Arkansas 25, 38-10 in a unique kind of bigger win for teams that are only separated by one ranking number.
Yeah, the Tigers run literally all over the Razorbacks. So Leonard Fournette, 98 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not a bad day, right? You think he'd probably be the leader of the offense. Well, not so fast, because Darius Geese runs for 252 yards and 2 scores. So they literally run for over 350 yards.
That's a good name.
It's a great name.
I like it. Well, now we skipped over the 2, 3, and 4. It's because this is important. The last time this happened, the song "Take on Me" was number one. Yep, number one on the on the charts.
Take on me,
exactly. So the last time, Ben.
I know. 1985.
85, I would say. Yeah.
You want to know the irony in this as well, though? So we had Michigan lose to Iowa. Obviously, they were number 3, 14-13.
All 3 of these games were relatively close too.
Yes, but the last time this happened was October 19th, 1985.
Yes.
That year, Iowa defeated Michigan. Iowa was number 1, and Michigan was 2. It was a 12-10 score that year.
Okay.
But that year, the Michigan quarterback was Jim Harbaugh. This year, Iowa defeats Michigan with Jim Harbaugh as the coach.
That is ironic.
On a game-winning field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah, as you said, they win 14-13. Pittsburgh also defeats the number 2 team, Clemson, with a game-winning field goal there late, 43-42. And as Jeremiah on the football show has called for like the last few weeks, as a matter of fact, USC goes into UW's home, and they beat them 26-13.
They dominated them the whole game.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, this kid is not to be forgotten. He's a strong player. 23 for 33, 287-2, not off the charts numbers, but the kid has a strong arm. He's a true freshman. He's mobile within the pocket, so he's good at stepping up, much like Browning. He's really good at stepping through the pocket, extending plays. He did it multiple times against this vaunted Husky defense. He played really well. Ronald Jones, for the run game, added 93 yards on the ground. This was an impressive game, and unfortunately, Washington, they were down big at halftime. They were down 17-6 at halftime. Like it wasn't that close, and it's too bad for Washington. You got to tip your hats to them. They played well all year. It's their first loss of the year, and no teams in the Pac-12 are undefeated. They dropped to 9-1. You got to give your hat, take your hat off to them because they did have a strong year to get all the way up to number 4.
And it's not over. They do have Arizona State and then the Apple Cup with Washington State, and then if they handle business, they will be in the Pac-12 championship game. And really, anything can happen. We had a lot of teams lose this week, so our new AP top 10, which I guess you can take a little bit of consideration to it, but the college football playoff rankings are what really matter. So we have Alabama at 1, Ohio State 2, Louisville 3, Michigan 4, Clemson 5. Wisconsin 6, Washington go to 7, Oklahoma 8, Penn State 9, and West Virginia 10. So for me, it's going to be really how the committee tomorrow, and you'll talk about it more and then we'll recap on Wednesday, but it's going to be how the committee decide to rank these teams because you have Clemson lose, okay? But then they beat Louisville. So do you still put Clemson ahead of Louisville?
It's going to be, I haven't had enough time to really sit down and look at it. This is going to be a wacky one.
It's going to be interesting. This is going to be the most debated one we've seen.
Yeah, like we said, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 8, the 10, and the 14 all lost. The only thing you can really bet on with the AP poll in regards to the college football playoff poll is usually the back end.
Right.
Like the last few years.
The top is a little
the
different.
last few weeks, like Washington has been the same in both. Washington State, excuse me. So, you look at it in that sense. A lot of times you can kind of bet on that being the same. But yeah, this top 10 is going to be wacky.
And then for me, the 2 teams that came out looking the best this week are 2 teams from the Big Ten, and that's Penn State and that's Wisconsin. So as it sits right now, if Ohio State defeat Michigan, Penn State win out, they will be in the Big Ten championship game because they have the one loss in conference, which was to Michigan. But they have the head-to-head edge over Ohio State because they beat them. So if Ohio State defeat Michigan, they will be in the Big Ten championship game if they win out. They're facing Rutgers and Michigan State, who just got their first win in conference this week over Rutgers. Mm-hmm. So they should be able to win out. So that's going to be pretty interesting, is if Penn State are in the Big Ten championship game, which looks like it might be against Wisconsin, if one of those 2 teams win, do you still put Ohio State, if they defeat Michigan, ahead of Penn State or against Wisconsin?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I remember
it's going to be really interesting.
Where they said if they can justify a 2-loss team going ahead some of these teams. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I mean, I have no clue how this
And then where do you put Washington if they win out and still win the Pac-12 with 1 loss to USC? Where do you put them in the top 4? I think there's only one thing guaranteed, and that's Alabama are in a prime position right now.
Yeah.
So, man, it's going to be really, really interesting. It's really coming down to the wire. Like I said, we had a great week in the NFL. This was by far the best week in college football for a neutral fan because now we're literally thrown for a loop. Last week we had it pretty confident where they were sitting. The top 4 teams were all the 4 undefeated teams. Now you have 3 of those teams losing. So now you're like, I don't know where to go. You know what I mean? Because I look at it, you have Louisville, Clemson beat them. Do you put them ahead of them, or do you look at when they lost? I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this week. This week is going to be a really good one, and I can't wait. But until then, y'all have to wait until Wednesday for there to be an official reaction by Ben and I. I will try to do my best to predict it tomorrow. I have not been wrong yet on the top 4, so this is going to be a tough week.
If I had a prediction right now, obviously Alabama's 1. I'd probably put Ohio State at 2.
Yeah, me too.
I think Clemson will probably only fall to 3 because I think the committee cannot put Louisville ahead of Clemson because they beat them. I realize it was a tough loss. They kind of lost by 1 yard by instance. So that's a tough loss, but they still have the head-to-head edge. So I still think you have to put Clemson ahead of them. And then where you go at number 4 is kind of interesting. Do you maybe go with Wisconsin? I mean, or Ohio State? I mean, I don't really know.
I like that.
You know, it's going to be interesting. One thing's for sure, Alabama's going to be 1.
Yeah,
so,
the only thing I can bet on is Alabama's number 1.
So if I had to make a prediction, I'd say Alabama 1, Ohio State 2. I'll go Clemson 3, and then I'll go Louisville 4. If I had to make a prediction.
Okay. I mean, I can't argue with you on that. I understand why you're putting everybody there. So we'll have to see how it shapes out. I'll try to give my best reaction or prediction, I guess, tomorrow. Again, I haven't been wrong yet, so I gotta stick with that, and I can't overthink it. But anyways, let's take our last break. We'll come back. We'll do a quick what's trending, and we will head out of here for the day. Sound good to you?
Sounds great.
All right, we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, and Ben is going to hit us with a little bit of what's trending to end the show, and then we're going to get out of here. So Ben, when you're ready, hit me with it.
All right, Alex. So UFC 205 over the weekend on Saturday, the first mixed martial arts event in the Madison Square Garden since New York passed the law to finally allow MMA in their state. So Conor McGregor highlights the UFC 205 card with his bout over Eddie Alvarez. It's a lightweight title fight, and Conor McGregor defeats Alvarez via KO in the second round. So Conor McGregor makes history. He becomes the first fighter to hold 2 different championships in different weight classes with the victory. So, I mean, best fighter in the world, pound for pound, McGregor?
As it stands right now?
I think you have to give it to him, right? As much as I dislike the guy, he's an absolutely fantastic fighter.
As much as you dislike his persona and his attitude.
Yeah, I think a lot of his antics are kind of...
Played up.
Not necessarily played up, but kind of like publicity stunt. Like, oh, I'm retiring. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. And I'm just gonna come out here and like throw water bottles at you guys and like hit people with chairs and mock people
and scream and say why I don't care about being late because I'm on my own time
and do all these antics and stuff. Like I said, you gotta respect him for his.
Like a child.
You gotta respect him for his abilities in the octagon because he's fantastic. But all the stuff aside, it's like why do you need to do all that stuff, man? Like I kind of I'm not a fan. So. And then in the co-main event, we had a title fight between Tyrone Woodley and Stephen Thompson, which actually fought to a majority draw. It was a welterweight championship fight, which kind of disappointing there. We don't ever want to see a draw, but nevertheless, that's what happened. So
yeah,
it was a great card. I mean, I previewed it on Friday. We had a women's title fight between 2 undefeated women from Poland. So the champion these names are hard. They're from Poland, so. I butchered it last week, and I'm going to butcher it again, but it's Joanna Jedrzejczyk. She defeats Karolina Kowalkiewicz.
You did a pretty good job.
By unanimous decision. So she remains the champion, does Joanna.
And don't forget to mention, Miesha Tate also announced her retirement.
Yeah, after her loss. So she's
done. She's
hanging
gone.
up the...
she's gone at 30 years old. She's
hanging up the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Alex, so one more. And I promised you that it was going to knock your pants off.
Yep, and I'm wearing nice dress pants. So you
and no pun intended, but that's what happened. So, I'm a big soccer guy. So right now we're at an international break this week. So what that means is you have like World Cup qualifiers, you have friendlies going on. So for the Bosnia-Herzegovina game against Greece, you have Eden Dzeko from Bosnia-Herzegovina. He plays as well for Roma in the Italian league. He's doing pretty well. He's like one of the top scorers in the league. Doing very good. So Eden Dzeko, in the 74th minute, I believe, not really too happy about a situation that went on. He kind of went down in the box. Felt like he was fouled.
Okay, no fouls.
Nothing called. Okay. Nothing called, but, not very happy, as I mentioned. So he decides he's going to pull down the pants of the guy who fouled him. As he's laying down, the guy's kind of like on top of him, like standing up on top of him. So he just literally pulls down his shorts, like right in front of him, and gets a straight red. After the game, he goes, I really don't know why I got a red card. Well, maybe, Eden, it's because you pulled down the guy's pants.
Pulled that guy's shorts off.
And Bosnia-Herzegovina were winning 1-0 at the time. And Greece get a late equalizing goal to end the game in a draw 1-1. So
your fault.
I guess you can kind of say, and what makes it worse is he's the captain.
Don't get caught with your pants down.
Oh man, he's the captain of Bosnia-Herzegovina. So he literally hurts his team. He's the captain. He's supposed to be the team leader. He's the best player on the team by far.
Well, he led them to a draw this weekend.
Like him and Miralem Pjanic, the best players on the team. But yet he decided, and he's like, I don't know why I got a red card. I really don't.
Let's think about what did you do today different than most soccer games?
What did you do? I'll just pull the guy's pants down. Like, come on, man. You got to be kidding me, right?
No.
You know what? But here's another one I have that might be just a little worse.
Okay.
So the city of Cleveland, obviously big talking point within the last few months.
Especially in sports.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You have the Cavaliers winning the championship. Now you have the Indians blowing a 3-1 lead in the World Series. So almost getting 2 championships for the city. But then you have the Browns.
Yeah,
we all know about the Browns. Currently sitting at 0-10.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland Browns fans are planning a parade. Usually with a parade, you celebrate things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Browns fans are planning a parade if the team goes 0-16.
Okay.
Why?
Because it's the Cleveland Browns, and they are very used to losing, so it doesn't hurt them as much anymore, I think. And they're just trying to make a fun thing out of nothing. At least have some fun with it. You're not going anywhere this year. Top 5 pick again.
So top pick probably. I mean, especially if they're going 0-16, because every other team has a win.
Yeah, at least.
So they would be the top pick.
They're pretty much in the fight with the Niners for the first spot, and they have it because they don't have a win yet. So the Niners at least have one win.
Yeah. But it's like, why? And the thing with the Browns, I look at is like they literally have nothing to look forward to.
Not really.
Not at all. They have nothing to look forward to. And then this year, it doesn't get much better. You look at a team with the worst record. What do you probably look at in the draft? Look at the 3 positions that always get drafted number 1. You either have a lineman, you have a quarterback, or you have like a defensive pass rusher, right?
Like a wonderkin, yeah.
So with the quarterback position, you have probably the weakest quarterback draft class in a really, really long time. You have like Deshaun Watson from Clemson, maybe Deshaun Kaiser, Notre Dame, but those two...
A lot of lower kind of guys.
Those two in my eyes don't really stand out to me.
But, yeah.
So what then what do? Do you maybe go to lineman? Do you maybe go to like someone like Myles Garrett from Texas A&M who's a pass rusher? Like there's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, they're going to have to get a big... the one thing they have to look forward to is they do have a bevy of draft picks, so... go from there. Try to build a winner.
You know what I mean? It's just like they're planning a parade if they go 0-16. Like that is literally going to be the highlight of their season. Then, we had a parade, guys. Like,
at least they're planning something. There you go. But
oh man,
I have to start planning tomorrow's show because today's show is over.
Today's show is over, my friend.
Ben, of course, will be back on Wednesday. But until then, I will be here tomorrow. I will recap tonight's Monday night football game. I will try my best to preview the playoffs and their rankings, and then we'll see where I go from there. Maybe I'll talk some other sports. Maybe I'll talk some basketball. Maybe there'll be some news in baseball. Who knows? But I'm going to bring it to you guys tomorrow, as I always do. But until then, I'd like to say thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. For Anthony, I'm Alex.
My name is Ben.
I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ben,
I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Yeah, you'll see you on Wednesday. I'll see you on Wednesday, Ben. Until then, we would like to thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time. You have a good rest of your day, and enjoy your sports.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.